We've had Abby Huntsman. Time to get up and get the coffee brewing. We've got a big show ahead. Just 9 days now until the election. Hillary Clinton declares an all-out war on the FBI and James Comey.
It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. It's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling.
But is the damage already done, and what will happen next? We are live on the campaign trail.
And then our nation's two top cops in a heated feud that could help decide the outcome of this presidential election. Now, the Obama Justice Department tried to silence the FBI and keep a lid on the email scandal. We've got details coming up.
And Donald Trump rallies in the polls and tells his voters, watch out.
Be careful with your votes. Be careful with your votes and watch your votes. A vote for Hillary is a vote to surrender our government to public corruption, graft, cronyism.
With 9 days to go, Fox and Friends starts right now. 9 days. Single digit. Single digits. Can you believe
Holy
that?
smokes.
We're here.
Didn't feel like this started 2 years ago?
It did start 2 years ago.
We've been talking about it for 2 years, and if only we had something to talk about.
You can't say it hasn't been memorable.
Yeah,
We got a jam-packed show for you this morning. Holy smokes. Look at this lineup. We've got Mike Huckabee. We've got Reince Priebus, Martin O'Malley, Bill Richardson, Kellyanne Conway, all on this Sunday edition.
That is a fair and balanced program, by the way, and there is just so much going on.
Yeah, and so many questions to ask those guests, so it's going to be a big 4-hour show. And it's Halloween here in New York City. I came in this morning driving in. The funny thing about New York is you can't tell who's in costume and who's not. It's a little bit freaky.
It didn't look any weirder than usual from my perspective.
Oh, there's a female Captain America. That's normal. That's normal.
We do start, though, with this election. And as we mentioned, just 9 days now until the election. Trump taking full advantage of the renewed email probe as Hillary Clinton appears to be ready for a battle now with the FBI.
We have Team Fox coverage. John Roberts is following Donald Trump in Vegas. But first to Mike Emanuel covering the Clinton camp. Good morning, Mike.
Clayton, Abby, Tucker, good morning to you. Hillary Clinton is firing back at the FBI director, calling his decision on her email probe deeply troubling. We were with Clinton at a campaign event in Daytona Beach when she told her supporters the FBI investigation would not distract her or bring her down. The Democratic nominee also blasted Donald Trump, accusing him of misleading the public on her email issue. But Clinton's toughest criticism seemed to be saved for FBI Director Comey.
I'm sure that some of you may have heard about a letter that the FBI director sent out yesterday. Well, if you're like me, you probably have a few questions about it. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. In fact, it's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling.
Then it was on to Miami, where singer Jennifer Lopez headlined a free concert for Clinton and her supporters. J-Lo and her ex-husband Mark Anthony tried to fire up Latino voters, obviously a key constituency here in Miami, to vote for Clinton. It was a rain-soaked concert, but Clinton seemed to enjoy having celebrities make the case for her. Clinton is likely to make several stops here in Florida before heading out of town. She spent the weekend here in battleground Florida, 29 electoral votes up for grabs, but the headline of the weekend seems to be the conflict between Clinton and FBI Director Comey has gotten personal. Back to you guys in New York.
Mike Emanuel, thanks a lot, Mike. Good to see you this morning. You know what's so distressing is that you haven't seen, I don't think I've seen a single national Democrat say, whoa, this is kind of a big deal. Like, what is going on here? The FBI is investigating our presidential candidate a week before the election. Maybe she's done something wrong. Not at all. It's full speed ahead against the FBI director.
Well, they're not saying it publicly. Of course, you know behind closed doors they're freaking out right now.
No, but I mean, if when Trump says something controversial, you know, you have like a third of the Republican Party like attacks him and says we're standing on principle against this. You've never seen anything like that from Democrats. They're just all in. It's all about power.
If this reversed and they came out on some investigation on Donald Trump, they would be praising James Comey, just like they were when they actually came out and said that they're not charging Hillary Clinton for anything. Just months ago, I think we have a flashback of that. Let's take a look.
I think this is just another laughable partisan attempt to keep this issue alive, even now after the career professionals at the FBI have determined that there's no case to bring here. Obviously, the Republicans did not like that outcome. They were hoping that this would be an issue that they could keep attacking Hillary Clinton on from now till November. The FBI director's decision has deprived them of that opportunity, so they're coming up with more and more partisan ploys in an attempt to keep this issue in the news.
So have we heard from Brian Fallon this morning? He's, of course, the Clinton press secretary. Have we heard from him now on this latest?
I don't know. He'll literally say anything. I mean, he's just a mouthpiece for the campaign.
Yeah, but you know, Hillary Clinton's out on the stump saying, pushing James Comey just to say anything at this point to let people know that this is not a big deal. Because let's be honest, as long as this is in the news and as long as he doesn't say anything, James Comey, to calm people down, this is bad for her. And I think she realizes that.
Well, I don't know. They're playing a dangerous game. I mean, it is inherently a big deal when the FBI is investigating you. I've had friends the FBI has investigated. It never ends well. And they're pushing Comey to say something. I don't know. If Comey were to come out with a detailed justification for this, and by the way, I hope he does, would that necessarily help Hillary Clinton? I'm not sure it would.
I think the longer that he stays silent, the more guilty she looks. Right? Because then you would think that he would come out and say, guys, calm down. This is not a big deal. Don't rethink your vote because of all this. We haven't heard from him yet, and I'm not sure that he's going to say anything in the next 9 days.
Well, we got that letter. Of course, that if you looked at social media yesterday, it was the only thing people were tweeting about yesterday. It was people were linking to it and trying to read the tea leaves as to what exactly the FBI knows. So Loretta Lynch, though, apparently we're learning this morning, actually warned him against sending this letter to Congress, letting him know, like, look, this is not something we're prepared to do, and he went against her wishes, which is pretty remarkable.
Look, there's a report in Yahoo by Mike Isikoff we interviewed yesterday, one of the most famous investigative reporters in D.C., not a right-wing hit guy, that's for sure, that says the FBI could not get permission from the Department of Justice to look at these emails. Basically, DOJ, under Loretta Lynch, was trying to stymie this investigation at every turn, presumably for political reasons. That actually is amazing. There's zero evidence that James Comey is acting out of political animus against Hillary Clinton. There's a ton of evidence that Loretta Lynch is playing an inside.
No, but what James Comey said, though, he said if anything happens this investigation, if anything changes, I promised Congress that I would come out and I would let them know. This is someone who is sticking to his word, doing what he said he would do.
Right.
I think there's more going on behind closed doors between the Attorney General and James Comey, and maybe even President Obama. I think there's more to this story that we're going to hear as weeks come out.
And there's also a tech angle to this, which I found interesting. A router was also taken. A router which would let you see what other devices had attached and actually access that network to get information. So not just those computers, not just those devices, but a router, a Wi-Fi router, so that if other people were on Huma Abedin's actual Wi-Fi router, what other access and what other information could she have gotten?
Well, see, these are questions that should have been answered back in June when Huma Abedin sat under oath and was deposed in a case then, I think it was June 28th, and she was asked really specifically, all the devices on which your emails reside, are they accounted for? Have you turned them over? And she said, I absolutely have. And it turns out that was false, apparently, because there was this laptop in her apartment used by her husband that her emails were on.
That she shared with her husband, Anthony Weiner, as you like to call him, Tucker. Carlos Danger.
Well, he likes to be called Carlos Danger.
But,
I call people what they want to be called.
But she's now in hiding. She's hiding in her New York apartment, and she's saying she can't recall how her emails wound up on her husband's computer, but now leaving to a lot of questions because we don't have any information from James Comey. That does make, I think, a lot of people wonder what is in these emails. Well, how bad is this?
And demands for her Hillary Clinton to let her go. You're done. But as we talked to Ed Klein yesterday, she is never beyond 3 feet away from Hillary Clinton at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, the relationship that they have is incredibly strong.
And I forgot she worked for Teneo for a period of time.
Of course. Well, she was being paid as she was at the State Department, also by Teneo. But
she's been entangled with all this for years and years.
Anthony Weiner wound up with access to her email. She was married to him, and Bill Clinton presided over their wedding. So take 3 steps back. How reckless is it for Hillary Clinton to be apparently sending classified information to her closest aide, Huma Abedin, when she's married to a guy who's famous for his recklessness around electronic devices?
Right.
I mean, she's married to Anthony Weiner. If you're married to Anthony Weiner, I'm not sending you anything classified.
And the fact that they shared the same computer, which is just icky on a whole other level.
Yeah.
Well, much more on this morning. We've got 4 hours to get to.
Yeah, we do.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump taking full advantage of this crisis in the Clinton campaign, taking her to task on everything from her emails to Obamacare.
Fox News senior national correspondent John Roberts is following the Trump campaign in Las Vegas this morning. John, good morning.
Abby, Tucker, Clayton, good morning to you. The town's still going strong. Nothing like Halloween in Las Vegas, that's for sure. Early voting started here about a week ago. The Democrats claimed a big advantage on the first day with a union-organized Get Out the Vote campaign. Since then, Republicans say that they've been doing better, particularly in Washoe County, which was where Reno was located. But Hillary Clinton, in the Real Clear Politics average of polls, still leads here in the sober state by about 2 points. So Donald Trump's going to try to even that up with a big rally here at the Venetian, owned, of course, by casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, who is a big Trump backer. Yesterday, in Colorado and in Arizona, Donald Trump going very hard on this idea of the FBI opening up this investigation, hammering Attorney General Loretta Lynch for trying to strong-arm James Comey into not sending that letter to Congress, offering no quarter to Hillary Clinton for this latest chapter in her email saga. Here's Trump yesterday in Phoenix.
Hillary has nobody but herself to blame for her mounting legal difficulties. Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. As long as she and Bill got the money, the safety of your family made absolutely no difference to her.
Donald Trump also talking a lot yesterday about policy, in particular Obamacare, and the double-digit and sometimes extraordinary rate hikes that people across the country are going to feel in the next year. It's particularly bad in the state of Arizona. Here's what he said about that.
It's just been announced that the citizens of Arizona are going to experience, congratulations, a 116% increase in their Obamacare premiums. Elect me and we will stop the premium hikes for good. We will stop the madness of Obamacare. It will be repealed and replaced.
It's another three-state swing on the campaign trail for Donald Trump today, beginning here in Nevada, in Las Vegas. Then he goes back to Colorado for a rally, and then he's on to New Mexico, which is traditionally a blue state. But the Trump campaign says they've got some internal polling that suggests that the race is very close there, about 41% for either candidate. So they're going to try to mix it up a little bit in Albuquerque later on today. Tucker, Abby?
Thanks a million, John. The Balloon Festival, I think, is going to be there soon, if it hasn't already been.
John looks beautiful there by the gondola.
Really does.
Jealous.
I was just thinking
Sure,
that.
having a good time, too. All right, we do have some other headlines quickly to get to this morning, starting with this. A Fox News alert. A powerful 6.6 magnitude earthquake rattling central Italy overnight. This is the third one in less than a week, and it hit just 80 miles north of Rome. Officials say some buildings crumbled and some people are hurt. No deaths have been reported so far. We will keep you posted as we get more information on that.
9 days, and yet another bombshell in the wake of FBI Director Comey's reopening of the Clinton investigation. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, caught off guard by the Bureau's decision, reportedly tried to quash Comey's letter to Congress. Is the nation's top cop skirting the law in service of Hillary? Here to weigh in is attorney and former prosecutor Katie Fang. Katie, nice to see you this morning. We have a report this morning from a DOJ official to the Washington Post saying this. I want to get your take on this. Director Comey understood our position. He heard it from justice leadership. It was conveyed to the FBI, and Comey made an independent decision to alert the Hill. He is operating independently of the Justice Department, and he knows it, according to this Justice Department official. So no authorization from Loretta Lynch to go forward and release this letter to Congress. Your take?
Comey did not need authorization from Loretta Lynch. To be clear, Loretta Lynch created this Comey situation. Back on July 1st, 2016, she announced to the American public that she would defer to the recommendations from the FBI as it pertains to the Clinton investigation. She has effectively benched herself, taking herself out of the game, and put Comey as the quarterback of this process. If that is the case, then allow Comey to do what he's doing now, which is informing the American public that he has now reopened an investigation that he testified before Congress was closed. If that's the case, then let him do his job, and AG Loretta Lynch, get out of the way, because you're only creating more obstacles for the truth.
Let him do his job, and yet we don't have a warrant yet. Michael Isikoff, reporter for Yahoo News, reportedly went and asked the FBI, what is in the contents of these emails? And as of last night, they didn't even have a warrant to go through the emails. So they seized this stuff. They didn't get approval from Loretta Lynch to even look at it.
So in terms of the warrant, and that's a really important legal procedural point, Huma Abedin has testified already under oath that she's provided any and all devices that would have contained her emails that are relevant to the Clinton investigation to the FBI for the purposes of their investigation. There is no way that Huma Abedin will not provide continuing consent for purposes of waiver of a search warrant for the FBI to look at his emails. Think about the optics of this. If she objects, if she forces a warrant to be obtained in order to look at these emails that have been found on a shared laptop between her and her husband, Anthony Weiner, then she's going to show that everybody's claiming, completely true, that there's something to hide by Hillary Clinton.
You know, the criticism this morning is that it's been self-serving on Comey's part to come out now and to release this right before the election. Your take on that?
Well, listen, that is a criticism. What's he trying to do? Is he trying to save his, but think about this. There has to be something particularly compelling for him to be able to announce that he's doing this, that he's reopening an investigation 9 days, 10 days before the presidential elections. And it's important for the American public to basically have this information, but he has no obligation during an active criminal investigation to turn over the substance of what is being reviewed by the FBI at this time.
How can Loretta Lynch continue on?
She needs to get out. She needs to move out of the way. She needs to appoint a special prosecutor, or what she needs to do is she needs to Chinese wall herself. It's a legal concept. You remove yourself. You insulate yourself. You're segregated from this investigation. Her comments are not helpful. She claims that there's a tradition in DOJ. Well, why is tradition going to stand in the way of the truth? Tradition should not stand for political convenience, and that's exactly what she's doing to help the Clintons.
Unbelievable. Katie Fang, thanks for joining us this morning. Great perspective. Millions of Americans have already cast their vote, but in some states, it's not too late to change your mind. We're going to tell you where. Plus, Hillary Clinton says, don't worry about my pesky email scandals. I've got this.
Americans want a president who can lead our country, who can get the economy working for everyone, not just those at the top, and who can bring our country together. I offer that. I can do that.
Is she right? We'll have a fair and balanced debate on that next.
Some quick headlines for you. First up, a Fox News alert, a terror threat in Turkey. Families of consulate members in Istanbul ordered to evacuate. This after the State Department had issued a travel warning saying that terrorists are planning kidnapping and aggressive attacks against Americans. And ISIS is claiming responsibility for a brutal knife attack that killed a teenage boy and injured his girlfriend. The incident happened earlier this month in Hamburg, Germany. ISIS propaganda channels are calling the attack a retaliation against those who are helping the coalition effort in Iraq and in Syria. The unidentified attacker is still on the loose in that country. Abby?
All right, thank you, Tucker. Nine days to go. Well, after James Comey announced he was reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, the Democratic nominee laid out how she hopes the country responds.
I would urge everybody to get out and vote early in all the states that have early voting, because I think Americans want a president who can lead our country, who can get the economy working for everyone, not just those at the top, and who can bring our country together. I offer that. I can do that. And I'm very confident that the American people know that. And we're going to continue to discuss what's at stake in this election, because I believe that it's one of the most consequential elections ever.
Clinton is now under FBI investigation just over a week out from the election, and she thinks that she is the choice to unify this country in what has become a very, very divisive election season. Here to discuss some more, our Democratic strategist, Brian Benjamin, and Vice Chair of the National Diversity Coalition for Trump, Brunel Donald Shea. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
All right, so
good morning.
Brian,
God bless you, and God bless America.
Same to you. Brian, I will start with you. You heard from Hillary Clinton on Friday after the news broke about the investigation into her emails being reopened, saying, I'm the one to unite this country. Is that a message that she can be selling right now with all of this going on, this being the headlines everywhere?
Well, first of all, the case wasn't reopened. I know you guys keep saying that. What actually happened is that Comey has found these new emails on Hoover's device, and they're basically just going to investigate that. So this is not a new investigation. Obviously, there's no criminal intent, because if you pay attention to what has happened here, there is no emails from Hillary Clinton or to Hillary Clinton that are part of
but
this.
But Brian, we don't know that, though. We don't know that. I mean, James Comey hasn't been specific on any of that. So how do you know?
Well, how does Donald Trump know? He's out here saying that she's a criminal and that this is worse than Watergate. So, I mean, and matter of fact, we should investigate Donald Trump on some of those sex parties he had with minors in New York at the Plaza Hotel, these 11 accusers. And he's someone who should be talking about investigations given his background.
All right, Brunel, but this is what the focus is right now, just 9 days before this election. And as we have heard from James Comey, we don't know the specifics yet. We don't know how bad this could be.
You know, I'm an attorney, and I've been in federal court, and let me tell you something. FBI agents do not just reopen cases. If they have opened, well, she's under investigation.
Okay, fine.
She is a presidential candidate. She is under investigation, and what she's saying is she's going to bring the nation together. We've got WikiLeaks emails showing corruption. We've got Huma Abedin with 10,000 emails under life insurance because she doesn't want an accidental death. We've got Hillary Clinton running around talking about she can bring the nation together when she and the president have worked so hard over this last 8 years to divide the country, whites against blacks, blacks against Hispanics, Hispanics against Asians, and now you want to be the person to bring the nation together? I don't think so.
Brian,
believe me, they are convening a grand jury. Trust me.
But we know Donald Trump cannot bring this nation together, okay? We know the comments he's made against war heroes like John McCain. We know the comments he's made against individuals who are disabled. We know the comments he's made. Excuse me?
Brian, go ahead.
We know the comments he has made about Mexicans. He's called them rapists. Matter of fact, if you had sex with a minor, you're a rapist. But let's leave that aside for a second. He has made so many ununifying comments. He cannot be the unifying
candidate.
Okay,
but Brian, here's the reality of it, though, because, Brian, I have talked to a number of voters just in the past couple of days about what's going on, and a few of them have said to me, I'm concerned. I thought maybe Hillary Clinton was my candidate, but with this going on and this email investigation, who knows how long this is going to take to get resolved. People are saying, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure I can go vote for that. I mean, you've got to at least say that's a fact.
It's a fact on both sides is my only point. I mean, there's a sexual assault issue that 11 women have accused Donald Trump of sexual assault. So, I mean, that's also an issue. But it's a problem. James Comey needs to come out. He's a Republican, and I know Republicans say the election is rigged. Maybe not. But he needs to come out and give more detail. There's no doubt about it.
Brunel?
What I would say is this. Get your mouth off of that patriot, Comey. I am so happy that he has decided that the American people are more important than Hillary Clinton. He and those FBI agents on the bottom and the FBI agents in New York, the local officials who got this information, we are grateful as a nation. And let me tell you something. Those women coming forward all of a sudden, excuse me, sir, I'll let you talk. All these women coming all of a sudden, knowing all these are allegations, but we've got smoking gun emails basically saying that there is corruption going on. We've got Hillary Clinton, who never should have had that server, usurping federal record laws. She broke the law, and now she's going to expect the Latino vote. She's going to expect the black vote to put her into office on that thinking shift. That thinking shift.
Guys, we're going to have to leave it there.
Donald J. Trump is the only candidate for the United States. America first
Brian
candidate.
Benjamin, thank you both for being here. Really enjoyed having you. It's 6:30 in the morning. You woke me up, that's for sure. All right, what do you guys think about this? We want to hear from you, so make sure you email us at foxandfriends.com. All right, coming up, Donald Trump not the only one saying that the election is rigged. Now Democrats are saying the same thing after Clinton's new email scandal. Can they have it both ways? Our political panel is here to discuss next. And millions of Americans have already cast their vote, but in some states it is not too much for those votes. They can still change their minds. We've got more on that.
Well, thanks to early voting and mail-in ballots, nearly 18 million Americans have already cast their vote.
Yeah, but with the FBI bombshell dropped on the Clinton campaign, some might be wondering if they made the wrong choice.
So what do you do about it? Garrett Tenney joins us live from Washington to explain that for some it might not be too late to change their minds. Garrett, that's amazing. Really?
Absolutely. Good morning to you all. You know, it might not be too late, but really there's also time that's quickly running out for folks to change their minds here. Now, for most of the country, once your vote is in, it's in, and there's no going back. 7 states will allow voters to change their minds before Election Day, though. And the process and policies vary for doing that. Now, for instance, in Hawaii, Connecticut, and Minnesota, voters have until this Tuesday, a week before the election, to file a new absentee ballot. In New York and Michigan, voters have until the day before the election to request a new absentee ballot in person at their county clerk's office. In Pennsylvania, you can wait all the way up until Election Day to decide if you want to change your mind and then show up and vote in person to replace your previous ballot. Wisconsin also allows voters to recast a ballot. Now, there's no way to know how many voters will, in fact, actually decide to change their votes. And voting researchers point out that early voters tend to have stronger opinions and are less likely to change their minds. But nearly 1.5 million Americans now have that opportunity, and that includes several key swing states that are in play this election: Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And as we've seen this election, you can't rule anything out. Tucker?
Oh, Garrett Tenney live from Washington. Thanks a lot, Garrett. Well, in the wake of the FBI fallout from 2 days ago, Democrats now slamming the very same system they defended against accusations lobbed by Donald Trump.
It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election.
Director Comey was the one who wrote a letter that was light on facts, heavy on innuendo, knowing full well what Republicans in Congress would do with it. It's now up to him, who owes the public answers to the questions that are now on the table.
Can they have it both ways? Here to weigh in our political panel, former Clinton advisor Jamu Green, Andrew Wilkow, host of the Wilkow Majority on Sirius XM Satellite Radio, and our old friend, pollster Lee Carter. Great to see you all. Jamu, first to you. I know because I read it in the Washington Post and I saw it in NBC News, there's nothing more immoral than shaking the public's faith in the system. And yet, that's what I see Democrats doing right now.
Really? I think what I hear from Secretary Clinton's camp is give us more information. And the thing is, Tucker, we're also hearing that from Republicans. For the first time probably in the last year and a half, you've got both campaigns saying the same thing.
Well, I don't disagree with that, by the way.
I don't think we get through the week without Director Comey coming and answering some of these questions.
But they're saying the
it is
system is
unprecedented
rigged.
what he did.
That's fine, but they're saying the system is rigged.
No, Donald Trump has said that. And it is interesting that Donald Trump called, as the kid said, you know, talked about this man like he was a dog. I mean, called him every single name under the sun, and now thinks that he's going to be the savior of his campaign. Democrats, and specifically the Clinton campaign, are saying, you can't do this 11 days out before the election. You owe the American people more information. He knows, and he even said in an internal memo to the FBI that he didn't want to be misunderstood, and he has been.
I read it.
So he's going to have to clarify
So,
that.
Andrew, I mean, don't voters have a right to know if the leading presidential candidate is under federal criminal investigation?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Hillary's saying, go ahead and release this stuff after bleach bits, smashed BlackBerries, private servers. Why doesn't she just release her own information or tell Huma to do it?
What's the answer to that?
Very simply, if Huma says there's nothing to hide, then Huma can release her emails.
So that's a solution, isn't it?
It is a solution, but I think that
I think we just fixed this right here on this set. It's not even 7 in the morning.
There we go.
There's
the answer. But I do think that right now, this whole notion that now the switch in how people view Comey on the right, before it was he's against us and he's in cahoots, and now it goes the other way around. I think what we have to do is say Comey has made some tough decisions in both cases, and we have to listen. I think the American people deserve to know what's going on. I don't think it's fair to attack him. You know, if she made her bed, she has to lie in it. I think that we have to learn what happened.
So is there anything Hillary Clinton could do to shake the faith of Democrats? I mean, they'll literally defend anything. She's under federal criminal investigation, and not one Democrat I have seen on television anyway said, whoa, that's kind of bad. They won't even admit that. It is kind of bad, no?
Secretary Clinton has certainly done a better job of consolidating Democrats than Donald Trump has, but he is the candidate that said he could go out on Fifth Avenue right down the street from here, shoot someone.
But it's not true. I mean, all these Republicans are against him. I mean, where are the are there any principles at all worth defending? I think what's going to happen here, Tucker, the enthusiasm gap that has been talked about a lot. I know Abby was saying she's talked to a lot of people who may be questioning their votes.
everyone I'm hearing from and non-political people, this is really saying to them, like, this is unacceptable.
Well,
they feel like there's meddling, and I think this is going to turn out Hillary's vote.
So when you find that your candidate is under federal criminal investigation, do you say, man, I can't wait to vote for that person?
I don't think anyone's going to go from Make America Great Again to, or I'm with her to Make America Great Again, but there might be a sliver of people, and we heard A.B. Stoddard say yesterday, that he might make people scared, but she makes people nauseated, that people, a small sliver of the Democrat voter might stay home.
Well, I think it's really important. I think to think about the vote is getting real. The polls are closing and tightening up. And if you look at all he needs to do is swing 2 or 3% of people. So if you can think a lot of Republicans were thinking about voting for Hillary Clinton because they didn't like him, that's not going to happen. And if this suppresses her vote by 1 or 2%, we're looking at a totally different day. I think that we're going to see a totally different set of polls coming out Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week.
We'll find out. I hope you'll come back to analyze them.
Of course.
Great to see you all this morning. Thanks. Hillary Clinton not the only one waging war on James Comey. The press, of course, joining her in doing so. Our next guest has proof. You got to see this. You can anticipate what it is anyway, but buck up. We've got it for you nevertheless. Plus, look at the guest list we've got coming up. Mike Huckabee joins us. RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, the Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway, and more. Stay tuned. We've got some quick headlines for you. First up, is this strange creature the Loch Ness Monster? Of course it is. An employee for the Alaska Bureau of Land Management snapping a video of this 12 to 15 foot long creature swirling back and forth in an icy river. Speculation is now running rampant over what it could be. Don't go swimming with it. And one heck of a catch. A Florida man and his family reel in a 13-foot, 700-pound alligator. It took them 2 hours to do it. It's a pretty good haul, wrapping up gator hunting season, which ends in Florida on Tuesday. They caught it on a Mickey fin.
Sure that some of you may have heard about a letter that the FBI director sent out yesterday. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. It's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling.
Hillary isn't the only one deeply troubled by the FBI's reopening of her email investigation.
So is the press. Comey's timing was nevertheless unfortunate given its potential to affect a democratic process. He inevitably creates a cloud of suspicion over Ms. Clinton that, if the case's history is any guide, is unwarranted. Joining us now is Research Director for the Media Research Center, Rich Noyes. Rich, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Morning.
Thanks for having me.
So I just read a blurb from the editorial of the Washington Post, and that's just one of some of the media outlets that have come out criticizing James Comey for the timing of all this and not giving any specifics. What is your reaction to all that?
Well, I mean, you've certainly seen a lot of this over the last 48 hours, and I guess the question is, what choice did Comey have? I mean, unless you think he's lying about the timeline he explained in his letter to Congress, he was briefed about this, he felt the need to proceed, and he felt like he should inform the committees that he had talked to that he was updating the record. I think, we've seen this in the past. Whenever the Clintons, going back to the 1990s, got in trouble with one of their various scandals, they would turn their guns on the investigators. They turned their guns on anybody who was digging into them, anybody who was a witness against them, and just sort of unload the entire machinery. And there were always journalists who were willing to step forward and carry some of that water for them and make it seem as if this was, everybody's business. We've seen this play before.
Speaking of journalists carrying the water, Andrea Mitchell from NBC News tweeting this yesterday. FBI looking at emails from unrelated case, but Donald Trump says proves a criminal case. Should Comey do this so close to the election? David Ignatius from the Washington Post. Note to Comey, in news business, you wouldn't publish stories so thin 10 days before election without providing details. Well, it turns out he wasn't able to provide the details because Loretta Lynch wouldn't give him access and allow a warrant so we could know what's in the emails, Rich.
Right, and that, this is probably the thing that's going to be most frustrating is the real conclusions from all these emails won't come until after the election, right. But at least voters are aware of it now. But I think the media reaction you're seeing is part of the trend we've seen all general election campaign. They don't want to cover Hillary Clinton scandals. They don't want to cover email. We just did a study. We found over 100 minutes of coverage of Trump and women, that personal issue. That's 2.5 times more than coverage of this email scandal, right. Which goes right to the heart of her ethics and competence when she was in public office. I think,
Right.
Clearly they should be getting at least equal coverage.
Rich, is this journalism, though, or is this activism? When you look at some of the tweets that were sent out by journalists, the opinions from some of the biggest papers in this country, I mean, you have to wonder.
Yeah, they're sounding exactly like the Democratic campaign. They don't like that this issue came so close to the election. They wish this was off the table. They want to discredit the message and sort of reassure Hillary voters that there's something to look at here.
Yeah.
But again, if this had been disclosed months and months ago, it wouldn't be an issue right before the election either. So,
right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to leave it there.
Rich Noyes from the Media Research Center. Thanks so much, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, remember the guy who smashed Donald Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? We just learned his punishment.
He was the host of the Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs, a celebration of blue-collar work. And now Micro is making headlines for his approach to voting. He posted this on Facebook recently. Quote, regardless of their political agenda, my celebrity pals are fundamentally mistaken about our civic duty to vote. There was simply no such thing. Voting is not a right, not a duty, not a moral obligation. Joining us now is Mike Rowe. Great to see you, Mike. Thanks a lot for joining us. So you've been following this election closely and carefully, and I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of people are for Trump, a lot of people are against him. That's, of course, all legitimate. But you're also hearing this kind of undercurrent of contempt for Trump's voters, people in the great middle of the country, a lot of them blue-collar people. What do you make of that, the elites hating blue-collar America?
Look, I mean, I hate to generalize, but I think in general, elections are always popularity contests. So, it's gone from an ad hominem kind of thing to just gross generalizations about uneducated groups, whether it's white, black, or somewhere in between. Everybody seems to have a category, and that's a shame.
Well, it is a shame, especially when it's framed in moral terms. It's not just a debate about who's right and who's wrong. It's a debate about who's virtuous and who's sinful. Have you noticed this?
I rarely wade into this kind of thing in terms of a polemic, but people were asking me why I wasn't joining my friends in Hollywood to basically rock the vote in a very general way. And my response was, look, I just prefer to know who I'm talking to before I tell them to either protest or exercise their Second Amendment right or their First Amendment right or their right to vote. It really just came down to that.
So you're not encouraging people not to vote. You're merely saying that if you do vote, maybe you ought to, gather some information about what you're voting on.
I mean, in general, my post was, look, if you really want me to offer advice to 500,000 people or 6 million people on my Facebook page, well, how about read? Get a philosophy that you can at least defend and articulate, and then maybe we can argue about policy or candidates or things like that. But until you do the work, pulling the lever is not the work. Scratching off a square is not the work. Understanding why you believe what you do, that's work.
That seems like a pretty adult way to treat people. I wonder how they took it. So so you see the American middle class, you spend a lot of time with people who work outside, and you've noticed in this election that they're pretty frustrated. Do you understand why? It seems like a lot of people where I live don't understand why. Do you get it?
On a really personal level, families and friends are being divided over what feels like a litmus test of sorts. And, of course, I know that happens all the time, but I've never seen it happen really historically since the Civil War.
That's right.
That I think has made people really, really uncomfortable in ways that is difficult to articulate.
Yeah, I hope it's better than Reconstruction when this all ends. So you've got a foundation, which, unlike the foundations of others, you're not getting rich from. It's called Micro Works. Tell us what it does.
It's an attempt to shine a light on jobs that actually exist and focus on people who are truly willing to learn a skill that's actually in demand. We've trained, 500 or 600 people in welding alone. And you'd be amazed at how many make six figures, and you'd be amazed at how happy they are. So there's a disconnect between what a good job is nowadays and a decent opportunity.
As someone with no actual skills, I'm actually a little envious of that. Micro, it's great to see you this morning. Speaking of myself, I hope you run for something. Thanks for joining us.
Tucker, I think you're highly skilled at whatever it is you do.
Exactly, whatever it is I do. It's great. Thanks for coming on. Next up, Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, in hiding, or a version of it, since the FBI announced it was reopening the investigation. You won't believe what she told the FBI about her husband, Carlos Danger, and how he got her emails in the first place. And we've got a big show on tap coming up. We've got Mike Huckabee, Dennis Kucinich, Judge Andrew Napolitano, and many others. Stay tuned.
Now, I'm sure that some of you may have heard about a letter that the FBI director sent out yesterday. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election.
Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful.
You know, we're especially saying enough is enough when it comes to the fast and loose ethics of the Clintons, aren't we? And it sounds like the Department of Justice is starting to feel that way, too.
I think the quicker they release the emails for the public to see them, the better off. I have confidence in Hillary.
The American people are about to have a candidate who is clearly going to be under criminal investigation for the entire first and second year of her presidency, if she could even survive it.
So the American people deserve to get the full and complete facts immediately.
So what's happened to the Justice Department? What's happened? What's happened? This is what I mean when I say that our system is rigged.
Whoa.
Ooh, happy Sunday
There's a lot
morning
going
to
on in American politics. And on this show this morning, we've got Reince Priebus, chairman of the RNC, Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland, the Democratic presidential candidate, Bill Richardson, former presidential candidate and governor of New Mexico, and the Trump campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway.
That is great. 3 hours ago. And
That's
really,
Fair and
Fair and Balanced Group. I'm excited to ask them so many important questions we need to get to today.
I know you guys are excited about that. I'm excited about we got kids in Halloween costumes.
It is Halloween here, and this whole place is decorated thanks to Party City.
And you thought Party City, and you thought that was like Christmas lights out there? No, those are Halloween lights.
Yeah.
Just for us.
Very different.
Just for us. And guess what? We are going to dress up at the end of the show.
Certainly.
Did you guys know that?
Including Tucker. Now, when we say we, that includes Tucker.
I'm trying to
see his costume. It's frightening.
All right. First up, we've got 9 days until the election. 9 days. Hillary Clinton doubling down against the FBI's renewed criminal probe into her email.
The Democratic nominee appearing to be ready for battle with Director James Comey.
Mike Emanuel is live in Miami covering the Clinton camp this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Clayton, Abby, Tucker, good morning to you. Hillary Clinton and her top advisors are trying to reassure anxious Democrats that this email October surprise won't defeat her.
No matter what they throw at us in these last days, we're not going to back down. We're not going to get distracted. We're not going to get knocked off course because we know how much this election matters.
Clinton fired back at FBI Director James Comey at that campaign event in Daytona Beach, Florida. She took a much tougher tone after initially just calling on the FBI director to release more information to the public. Now it's clear the Clinton-Comey showdown, less than 10 days before the election, has gotten personal.
I'm sure that some of you may have heard about a letter that the FBI director sent out yesterday. Well, if you're like me, you probably have a few questions about it. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. In fact, it's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling.
Last night in Miami, Clinton was in a much more festive mood. She had the artist J-Lo headlining a free concert for her and her supporters. Jennifer Lopez and her ex-husband Mark Anthony were trying to encourage Latino voters to turn out in big numbers and support Hillary Clinton. The Latino vote, obviously a key constituency in battleground Florida. I should note that Clinton's closest aide, Huma Abedin, is not on this trip to Florida. Abedin, and that is highly unusual since Abedin is typically at Clinton's side. I should note the Washington Post this morning is reporting that Abedin is telling close confidants that she does not know how those 10,000 or so emails ended up on the laptop she shared with her estranged husband, Anthony Weiner. Back to you guys in New York.
Mike Emanuel, great to see you this morning.
Mike.
Thanks. I want to bring in now one of our favorite guests, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee joins us live this morning. Governor, it's great to see you this morning. So how did this become an investigation?
To be with you guys this morning.
Well, James Comey, if you read the papers this morning, seems like the one under investigation. Have you noticed that? I thought it was Hillary who's under criminal investigation.
The James Comey he has done something remarkable, and we need to thank him for it. A lot of people are all over his case, but he has finally brought Democrats and Republicans together just before this election because all of them want him to resign. And that's the only time that I've seen Democrats and Republicans agree on anything in all of 2016. So we will at least be grateful for that.
What about Loretta Lynch in all of this? Of course, we remember the tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton over the summer. And she came out then later apologized, said it was an error in judgment. But she, in the beginning of the summer, said she would listen to the recommendations of the FBI in her decision on this case. Well, we learned yesterday that the DOJ had basically tried to stonewall James Comey from actually sending this letter to Congress, saying he was going to get the emails. Further, the DOJ is also not allowing a warrant to be issued. So the FBI has not yet been able to go through these emails. They have them. They're just not able to read them yet.
Well, I'm sure all of you are aware that if you talk to rank-and-file people in the FBI, either active or retired, there is an uproar within the ranks of the Bureau because they feel like that everything that they have been trained to do, everything that they have the integrity to do, has been upended by the way this has all been handled. And they're angry and they're frustrated. They feel like that, the agency has been compromised because the DOJ has been so protective of Hillary. They have not allowed this to go through in the same way they did for General Petraeus, General Cartwright, or for that matter, for some low-level sailor who takes a picture on his cell phone. The fact is, America cannot elect somebody to the highest office in the land to be the commander-in-chief of all armed forces, the head of all national security, who can't keep a simple secret and then who destroys evidence. Hillary talks about something unprecedented. This would be unprecedented. I don't think if she were elected, her presidency would last much longer than a snowball in Phoenix in the middle of August. I just think that there's just too much stink there, and no amount of Febreze is ever going to be able to make it smell good.
So Uma Abedin is now saying that she can't recall how tens of thousands of these missing emails wound up on her husband's, or going to be ex-husband, Weiner's laptop in a folder that was called life insurance. So now you have Hillary Clinton saying, I want everything out there. I've got nothing to hide. But you rewind this back, Governor. That is not what she said early on in this investigation. She did not put everything out there. Had she done that, we might be in a different place today. So who's really at fault here? Is it Hillary Clinton or is it James Comey?
Well, have you noticed that with Hillary, it's never her fault? I mean, Harry Truman said the buck stops here. The only buck that stops with Hillary is the one that has George Washington's face on it. And those are the ones that come from foreign governments that go into the Clinton Foundation. But never does she stand up and say, it is totally my fault. And so is it Comey's fault? Is it Huma's fault? No, it's Hillary's fault. She is at the center of this entire Clinton enterprise.
Governor, it might be Vladimir Putin's fault. I want to play what Representative Tim Ryan from Ohio says about this. So hold your horses here. Listen.
Okay.
I can't imagine there's any there or anything that's really going to have an effect on the election. So the question is, where did these documents come from? How did they get to the FBI? Is Russia involved in this? We don't have any clue of where this stuff is coming from.
Putin, Governor, there's your answer.
For those who are a little younger, they need to go back and rent the old Carl Reiner movie, The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming, because it's like a remake of it.
It's unbelievable.
It was a hilarious movie in the mid-'60s. It would be funnier today. Just insert Vladimir Putin as the sub-commander. And, the Democrats, this is the best they can do, is to say, we didn't write all that stuff. The Russians just recreated our emails perfectly. They really don't deny the content.
No, of course
And we
not.
really don't know where it came from. But this is classic. Let's just turn the other way. It's the same role. The Democrats are using them as the same role as a scantily clad woman in a magic show, is to divert attention away from what's really going on.
Can this change the tide, though, for Donald Trump? Because up until this point, he has been down in the polls. He needed something like this to happen. But how much can this change what happens on Election Day?
Well, I do think it's causing people, and I hear from folks when I'm out traveling, and they'll say, I don't really like Donald Trump, but there's a lot of things about him that trouble me, but by golly, I can't vote for Hillary Clinton. I mean, the corruption, the subterfuge, all the things that are out there that just say, we can't trust her.
Right.
She's not dependable. And I do think that people are going to realize that if you want any change at all, If you think the system is rigged, and it is, if you think that there are two sets of rules for this very small group of elitists who run the country and the rest of us who would be run over by this country if we did anything like that, if you're sick of that, you better vote for Trump, because if you vote for Hillary, she and her elitist pals will protect themselves and they will destroy the rest of America. And folks, this is pretty serious stuff when our jobs, people's mortgages are in foreclosure. I mean, look at all the issues that we face. And the one group of people who have been absolutely protected through it all are the folks in that upper circle that Hillary represents. She calls the rest of us deplorable, irredeemable. She shows contempt for evangelicals, for Catholics, for working class people, even for the students who are out there thinking they're doing the country a favor by voting for her. She says they're dumb. So this is why people are, I hope, waking up to reality 9 days before this election.
Yeah. Establishment Republicans still rooting for her in D.C., though. Not surprising.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Governor Huckabee, great to see you this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we do want to get to a Fox News alert now, and a powerful 6.6 magnitude earthquake rattling central Italy overnight. Now, this is the third one in less than a week near Rome, and the quake is the strongest to hit Italy in more than 35 years. There are injuries, and emergency workers are racing to determine if anyone has died. Many historic spots are also damaged. And to another Fox News alert, a manhunt is underway at this hour for a knife-wielding maniac who went on a stabbing rampage inside a train station. The incident unfolding in Frankfurt, Germany. Authorities say 4 people were taken to the hospital with stab wounds, one with serious injuries. The motive is still unclear, and this happening just 2 weeks after a man stabbed a teen boy to death in Hamburg. ISIS is now claiming responsibility for that attack.
You know, I think people a long time ago made up their minds about the emails. I think that's factored into what people think, and now they're choosing a president.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Don't worry at all. Criminal investigation has no effect. And yet, a recent poll shows that 62% of voters surveyed say that how she handles her email is a big indicator of how Hillary Clinton would act as president. So it's not a small thing, actually. Fox News contributor and former Ohio Congressman Dennis Kucinich ran against Hillary for president in 2008. Some of us were rooting for him. He joins us now to weigh in on all of this. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. So,
morning, Tucker.
Is this a big deal? I mean, here you have the frontrunner in the presidential race under criminal investigation by the Justice Department. Should we ignore it?
Well, it's not going to be ignored, obviously. What bothers me, Tucker, is that the FBI has said, and I'm quoting, they don't know the significance of these emails.
Right.
But the very release of them, that there are emails, makes it extraordinarily significant. And let me tell you the problem I have with this. The FBI doesn't have a right to stuff the ballot box. If Hillary Clinton did something wrong, Congress can take it up after the election. I don't like this kind of closeness to the election where the FBI can put a big foot in and change the outcome. That is against everything America ought to stand for, and I object to it.
Okay, I don't think it's a crazy point. On the other hand, don't we as voters, look, they came across something that triggered an investigation. That's a judgment they make every day about many different citizens. And
wait a minute.
But hold on, don't we as voters have a right to know they're initiating a new criminal investigation into someone we might vote for? I mean, don't you want to know that?
Well, sure, I want the information. If they bring it all out, great. But you know what? They're not doing that. They haven't done that. What they've done is say, well, these might be important. They may not be. Well, wait a minute. The fact that you're bringing it forward gives the American people the impression that it is important.
Right.
I mean, who wrote this script? It wasn't Thomas Jefferson or George Washington.
Well,
it was Franz Kafka. This is wrong.
Okay, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, we're learning, though. So Mike Isikoff over at Yahoo News filed a piece last night that said the FBI hasn't seen the emails because the DOJ, Loretta Lynch, who is very political, I think we both agree, hasn't given them permission to take a look at those emails. So how can they assess what's in them if the Justice Department, the Obama Justice Department, won't let them?
Well, you know, then that's what Comey ought to be saying. He ought to be saying that, you know, we want to release this. The Justice Department won't let us. I just want to go back to something here, Tucker. I don't want the FBI stuffing the ballot box in any American election. The people are voting right now. Look, I am not an apologist for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Anybody who's watching this show or has watched Fox over the last couple of years will know that that's the last thing anybody'd say about me. This thing is not fair the way it's being handled. Yes, she's under suspicion. Yes, there's a trust factor. But if we start to sanction the FBI vetting our presidential candidates a week before the election, we are in trouble in America.
Okay, but the FBI is tasked with responding to information that comes to its attention, and they should be responding to all information the same, regardless of whether it's a presidential candidate or you or me or anybody else. Here's what we do know. We know that in June, Huma Abedin testified under oath that she had accounted for all the devices that might hold emails that she sent or received from Hillary Clinton. Apparently, she didn't mention this laptop that is now at the center of this story. That seems like a violation under oath.
You know what? Who knows? I mean, could it be? I don't know. But I will tell you this, that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are the two major presidential candidates. If Donald Trump was under this kind of an attack, I'd be raising the same concern.